Hello and welcome back to another episode of Pie Guy and Brodeur. One voice, two minds. I'm your host, Pie Guy, and before we begin, you can find the rest of these spectacular episodes and, of course, this one-of-a-kind podcast on YouTube on that one and only Brodeurland YouTube channel. And, of course, you can find it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and, of course, iHeartRadio. Now, today on this episode, we're going to be talking about the word responsibility. Can you be responsible? Can you really move forward in your life and take responsibility to a new level? Now, to help us along this episode and explore and dissect this word of responsibility, we're going to circle back to the one, the only Brodeur of Brodeurland, Mr. Brodeur. Hey, Pie Guy. Yes, everybody, today we are going to take a look at responsibility. We're going to dissect it. We're going to take a look at what does it mean to be responsible in our life. And part of that, Pie Guy, is we have to not procrastinate. We really got to take ownership. Again, another Brodeurland Word of the Week. That's right, Mr. Brodeur. We talked about taking ownership, I feel like, way back, one of our early episodes. Yes, Pie Guy, and that word, taking ownership, and not procrastinating and really being responsible and doing things when you know you should to keep moving forward and be dependable to others. And of course, be dependable to yourself. So those are the topics we're going to dive into when we explore responsibility in just a minute or so. Awesome, Mr. Brodeur. I love it. And you know what? I'm ready to dive on in and I'm ready to see and really pick your brain, Mr. Brodeur, on what this word responsibility is all about. So, without further ado, Mr. Brodeur, why is being responsible so important? And how can it help me better myself? And, of course, the people I encounter every single day. Well, Pie Guy, great question, and let's dive on in. And here's the deal. Responsibility is a foundational and a monumental word of the week. We hear it all the time, but do we really know what it means? You see, Pie Guy, I feel like a lot of times I hear words in my life and we may think we know what it means, but when somebody tells us, what is that definition? What is it in words? I think a lot of times responsibility is one of those words where like, I don't know. I feel like I know what it means, but we can't really put it into words. So let's dive in. Let's take a look at that Brodeurland definition, and it goes like this. You have to be dependable. You got to make good choices and take accountability for your actions, whether those actions are good or those actions are bad. And so the key takeaway for me here, Pie Guy, is that word accountability. Being responsible is all about showing others, and here's the deal, even yourself, that you are dependable, that you are going to get things done. But also, are you going to take the responsibility for the outcomes of your choices, whether those outcomes are good or at times maybe they're bad? Pie Guy, it makes me think of this quote right here by Abraham Lincoln. And Abraham Lincoln said this: you can't escape the responsibility of tomorrow by evading it today. You see, Pie Guy, the first word that comes to my mind when I hear this quote is procrastination, the opposite of being dependable and getting things done. Now, hang on a second, Mr. Brodeur. Didn't you talk about procrastination with our last episode all about punctuality? I did, Pie Guy, and here we are again, seeing how these words of the week really tie together and how they are steps. They're building blocks that are all connected and they help lay this foundation of really becoming that best version of ourselves. Whether it's procrastination that ties us back to punctuality or the accountability piece, which ties us back to that word of taking ownership. So true, Mr. Brodeur, and you alluded to that earlier when you were previewing what we were going to talk about. I can't wait to see where you go with this. Well, Pie Guy, here's what I want everyone listening to think about. How many times in school do we get assigned an essay, or we have practice, and we wish for it to rain or that practice to get canceled, or we wish for that teacher to bump back that assignment, whether it's homework, practice. And hey, I'm not going to leave out the adults here, right? For adults, maybe work, you got that project or even that simple grocery list, right? You got to put together. And sometimes we're like, oh, and we want to push it back. We want to procrastinate. We want to, put it on the back burner for a little bit. Here's the deal. We have to quit wishing. Sure, you can wish for the rain to come and cancel your practice. You can wish for the teacher to postpone your assignment. And of course, you can wish not to be on the team that's going to present that project at work. But no matter what, it is still going to come. You will still have to complete that essay or prepare for that event, that project, that game, whether you're ready or not. You have to take responsibility. You got to take ownership. Pie Guy, I can personally think of so many times as a kid when I wished my soccer practice or my marching band practice to be canceled. And the funny thing is, you think that is what all kids think, but we do the same as adults. I mean, I catch myself thinking the same thing, right? And I can't tell you how many times my own kids had soccer practice and my day was so busy at work and I was hoping the rain would come in and cancel their practices so I could get a break. Mr. Brodeur, really? Sadly, yes, Pie Guy. Just because you become an adult does not mean we automatically become more responsible. And the truth is, by wishing for those soccer practices to be canceled for my kids, or wishing for things to be postponed, or even as students, right, for things to be put back or canceled, we're just really affecting our growth, right? If we don't try to go for something, if we don't go to those practices, if we don't try to work on that essay or that project or whatever it is, how are we going to grow? How are we going to get better? And even at times, those games, those things we wish we pushed back, guess what? We're just going to have to do them later anyways. And that is why, sure, like I keep saying, we can wish all of our life for things to be easy. You can wish to have less problems or no problems. But here's the deal. Life brings with it all sets of problems and issues. Trials, I guess you could say, if you will. So the question is, how can I find solutions and really stop pushing things back? Because things are going to happen, or that time will arrive where you will have to perform. So what do? What do we have to do to be responsible? We have to try to get better. We have to try and work better so things become easier. Quit procrastinating. Quit putting things off. I have to try. I've got to find solutions to those problems because we are going to have them. Trials are needed. Here's the deal. Pay attention. Note this if you're taking notes. Trials are needed in our life so we can get better, learn to adapt, and learn to mature and take responsibility. That's right. That's how we're going to grow. Don't push things back. Don't procrastinate. That's only going to make you slow up on your growth and really pretty much never let you grow, right? Things will only build up. And at that point, it becomes a mountain of problems waiting to be tackled. That's when the stress sets in. That's when the anxiety sets in. And it's only going to make things worse. You have to move forward with a purpose, with responsibility, so you can keep continuing to become that best version of yourself. Now, Mr. Brodeur, I love it so far. And I like how you're really branching into not procrastinating, really finding solutions. So if you don't mind me asking, what is an example of a trial or a test you had to go through that relates to responsibility and what you've been sharing so far with this word? Sure, Pie Guy. And a great question. And I'm so glad you asked this because I always like trying to find stories or examples, whether it's my life as a kid or an adult, that really brings these words to life. And I would say, hands down, one of my toughest trials was when I came back to teaching after taking a break and becoming a youth minister at my church for about 2.5 years. Now, Mr. Brodeur, why is that? Why do you feel like coming back to teaching after that time was your hardest? Well, Pie Guy, I came back to teaching at the middle school level, which I found was very different than teaching seniors at the high school level. Because when I was at the high school, I taught a majority of senior classes. And of course, I would have a random, maybe freshman, sophomore, junior class thrown in there. But talk about learning classroom management all over again and teaching with new approaches to get through to these students. It was difficult and way different than it was at that high school level. Mr. Brodeur, you make it sound like teaching at the middle school level is night and day from the high school level. It is, Pie Guy. I mean, at the high school level, I could talk to the students about my hobbies, share about things in my life. We could even talk about maybe some of those superhero or big-time blockbuster movie trailers, just for a moment, a little mental break, and then get back in. And it was a great time, a great little break for about a couple minutes, and then dive back in. Now, the middle school students, they would take those talks, take those moments and bring it sideways, get off topic, and then getting them to refocus, talk about a whole nother story there. But long story short, Pie Guy, that first year was challenging. And there were more growing pains than I realized I would have, because I thought teaching at the high school, dealing with youth ministry all the way from K through 12, I thought, man, no big deal. This is going to be going back into the swing of things just at the middle school level. But I kept at it. I took responsibility for the failures I faced, especially that first year. And there were many. And of course, I took the responsibility of the successes as well. But those trials and me being accountable and being responsible for those outcomes helped pave the way to Brodeurland and these words of the week and the videos and the podcasts we're doing right now. It allowed me to grow. It allowed me to stretch. It allowed me to formulate something and now share it with everybody else. And I tell people all the time, these words of the week are more for me than they are for the students. They are my daily reminders. When I talk and share my videos with my students each day, I am really sharing my personal experiences currently and, of course, from the past. They help me stay in check and to keep working at becoming that best version of myself. And every day when I post whatever that quote of the day is, and like I said, I share that video with those students each and every day. Some days I need that slap in the face. Some days I need to hear those words or see that quote to remind myself to stay on track, to be responsible, to be perseverant, to be resilient, to take ownership, to be punctual, whatever it is. And it's great having those reminders every single day in every single year. Pie-tacular, Mr. Brodeur. I will say I hate trials in life. I feel like they always come at bad times. Pie Guy, that's the thing with trials. We are never really ready for them, and they tend to creep up on us. But if you embrace them and you work through them, only then can you really take responsibility for those outcomes and really see that growth. So true, Mr. Brodeur. They are uncomfortable, but like you were saying, they are needed to push us toward that growth and learning to take responsibility for our actions. And like you said earlier, don't procrastinate. And as much as, like I said, I hate those trials, you're so right, Mr. Brodeur. I've seen so many times where I have those headaches and those trials. And at the end, if I really take responsibility and own up to them and really face them with that perseverance and that responsibility, I really do see that growth later on. And Pie Guy, talking about taking responsibility for our actions and our outcomes, it reminds me of this quote. Responsibility is accepting that you are the cause and the solution of the matter. So Pie Guy, now it is time to add a new layer to responsibility. Now it's time to talk about taking ownership for the causes and for the solutions you create. That's right, when you take responsibility. I think a lot of times we think, all right, I got to take responsibility for the cause, but we got to go out there. We got to find that solution. You see, in Brodeurland, I always share my motto that you have to go out there and you got to be a goldfish. Let me pause you right there, Mr. Brodeur. For our viewers out there that don't know what your motto means, can you elaborate and share why that is your motto, or really, I guess, what being a goldfish means? Sure, Pie Guy. I would love to. So here's the deal. From a TV show I used to watch called Ted Lasso, the main character, Ted, was a coach and said to his players who messed up, "What is the happiest animal in the world?" A goldfish, because it has a 10-second memory. So go out there and be a goldfish. Now, let me just stop you again, Mr. Brodeur. Is that true with the idea of a goldfish and their memory and, I guess, leading to them being said to be the happiest animal in the world? Well, Pie Guy, here's the deal. I don't care if it's true, fiction, myth, legend, whatever it is. Here's the power of being a goldfish. If things go wrong, or if you cause things to fail, or not go the way you planned, you have to take that responsibility. You can't dwell on it. Don't let it get to your head and bring you down. No, you have to reflect on it for a little bit of time and figure out a way that you can move forward from that mistake so you can gain that knowledge from that failure and really march forward and make it a success. But here's the other side of being a goldfish. Let's say you had a great success. You can't let that get to your head. You can't let that create an ego. Definitely not. You still have to reflect on that success and ask yourself, from this success, can I repeat it? And can I keep moving forward and keep building on it? That's taking responsibility. That's taking ownership. And that right there is what I mean by being a goldfish. Mr. Brodeur, I love that motto. And I know you shared it before in maybe earlier podcast episodes and, of course, in your videos. And you share it all the time to your students every day. You betcha, Pie Guy. And I actually have a different student tell the class each day the motto. I have a little spinner and it, spins. And I say, okay, it landed on seat 15. Tell us what the Brodeurland motto is. And they say, be a goldfish. And I remind the students that maybe they had success in the math class yesterday, right? Awesome. See if you can build on it. You got to be able to repeat it. You can have a lucky day, but you can't have a lucky life. So you got to go out there and you got to repeat those successes. And if the material was hard yesterday, it's time to learn from those mistakes. It's time to keep trying to see if you can gain that knowledge. See if you can get better and really be better than you were yesterday. The key is, whether it is a student, me, any of us, we have to take responsibility for our mistakes, for our successes, and for our outcomes so we can go out there. We can keep growing to accomplish those dreams of ours, those goals of ours, and of course, make a difference in the lives of everyone we encounter every single day. Pie-tacular, Mr. Brodeur. Now, we are getting to that time of this episode where we do got to wrap things up. So, is there anything else you would like to talk about when it comes down to responsibility before we have to go? Well, Pie Guy, since it's time to tie things up, really wrap things up, it's time to look inwards right now into ourselves and see what type of action we have to take to really bring responsibility into our lives. Mr. Brodeur, you always like to add in an action to these words. You betcha, Pie Guy, because now it's time to go out there and put this word to action. You've heard me talk. You've heard our conversation to all the listeners out there. Even you, Pie Guy, right? Even me. But now I got to go out there. We've got to go out there. And we've got to really put what we've learned to action to make a difference. So we'll use this quote by Les Brown. I really love it. And I feel like it really ties things up. And it's this. If you take responsibility for yourself, you will develop a hunger to accomplish your dreams. So like I just said, we got to wrap up with some action, right? You have to take responsibility. You have to put it to action. I know for my viewers out there and all my students, we all have dreams. We all have goals. We all have aspirations we want to meet. But in order to achieve those, you can't sit around. You can't push things off. No, you got to take responsibility. You have to do it now. And so be accountable for your actions. Good, bad, lazy, or not. You got to be accountable. You can't just push things off and wait for them to be easier. No, they're going to get harder. They're going to be more stressful because you're going to have a mound of things to do later. Don't sit there. Don't procrastinate. You need to be dependable to yourself and to others. Take that action. Be a goldfish. Take ownership of that situation, both for the causes and, like we said earlier, the solutions that you have to make on a regular basis. Don't dwell on things or let things get to your head. You got to go forth. You got to march forward. You got to take that action. Man, Mr. Brodeur, you keep saying take action. Yes, Pie Guy, you've got to take that action. That's the only way you are going to achieve those dreams, those goals, those things you want to really tackle in your life. You can't just hope. You can't just wish. Or else, guess what? They're going to stay dreams. They're going to stay wishes. And like I said before, with goal setting, you can have those dreams. And that's why, again, they call them dreams or wishes. But to make them into a reality, you have to take the responsibility. You've got to be accountable. No more excuses. No more blaming. No more pointing fingers. It's time to take that ownership. It's time to be responsible. It's time to blaze your trail and move forward with that purpose. I love it, Mr. Brodeur. This whole idea of not wishing and waiting, but to go out there, take action, and in one word, responsibility. You're challenging us, Mr. Brodeur, all of us, to be accountable and to accept the trials and the things in front of us in order to grow and learn from. We just got to be responsible and really take ownership of those mistakes or those successes. I love it. And also, my friends, remember, go out there, like Mr. Brodeur says, be that goldfish, pie-tacular. And remember, my friends, stay infinite. Don't put limits on yourself. Expand your horizons. And Mr. Brodeur, if you could finish us in style, sure thing. So always remember, you all make each day a special day by just you being you. There's no one in the whole world like you except you, and I like you just the way you truly are. It's good that you exist, but you got to go out there. You got to take that ownership. You've got to not procrastinate. You got to take that action. Be that goldfish so you can be responsible and become that best version of yourself. So until next time, Brodeur out. Peace.